If you want to get ahead in your career, it's probably time to start acting a little bit more selfishly. What do I mean by that? Well, stick around in this video. I'm going to break it down. Hey everybody, it's Brian from A Life After Layoff, and today I want to talk to you about being selfish in your career. And some of you are way too polite, so I made this video just for you. I'm going to break down what exactly I'm talking about when I say being selfish. But before we get too far into it, if you're interested in more career-related content just like this directly from a corporate recruiter, maybe hit that subscribe button. Also hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future content. Especially true if you're in an active job search right now, you're going to want to follow along because I'm going to give you a lot of tips and tricks on how to get back into the workforce as quickly as possible. So this video is going to be relatively unscripted. I am just kind of go with it. I'm feeling a little feisty today. And you've probably heard me talk about the concept of being a free agent or acting like a free agent. And I guess I also say act like the CEO of your career. And some people have asked me, what exactly do you mean by that? So I figured I would make a video kind of discussing this. I think this is particularly relevant in the last 6 to 8 months, where we've seen a definitive softening in the labor market, where now there's a lot of companies, basically everybody's laying off these days, especially in the tech industry, but it's going beyond that. And I think it's going to continue to spill over into other industries as we head further into 2023. It's pretty obvious to me that companies didn't learn their lesson in 2020. In fact, they may have gotten even worse with it, as far as treating people with dignity and respect, how they handle layoffs, how they handle the entire process of employment. I mean, even if you look at this whiplashing effect back and forth with this crazy economic boom where people were getting hired left and right, huge wage increases, especially in tech, but it's spilled over in other industries. And I was sitting there looking at it going, this is not possibly sustainable. And sure enough, the bottom fell out from underneath this boom as fast as it started. And now you're seeing story after story of companies just handling layoffs in just the most unprofessional manner. And it's a head scratcher to me. I mean, of course, we had the Better.com layoffs and that whole saga, which I covered on this channel. But more recently, every time I log into LinkedIn, I see another story about somebody getting laid off in a particularly distasteful way. There was a guy that worked for Google, and he'd been there for, I don't know, maybe 10 plus years. The company forced him to return to the office. So there was a mandate that they wanted everybody to return. So now this guy is making this really long commute into the office, essentially against his will. And how he learns about his layoff is as he gets to the office, he swipes his badge and the badge no longer works on the building. So he physically can't enter the building. That's how he learned how he had lost his job. There was no email that went out. There was no call from a manager. There was no indication other than that. Eventually, he put two and two together and figured out that that's what the case was. But imagine disrespecting your employees to the point where you force them into a long drive. They're spending gas money and time away from home, only to find out that they don't have a job and they're not even getting paid for that. To me, that's just really distasteful. And that's just one of many. I've also seen stories of people who are in the middle of business trips. They're actually on company business away from their home, and they get notified mid-trip, and now they're stuck out in the field and they don't have a job. So imagine that. You're away from home, you don't have a job now, and you're dealing with people that you're meeting with, the embarrassment of that and trying to figure that all out, plus trying to get back home and trying to start picking up the pieces of your life. There's also a particularly distasteful story of a person who got laid off while they were in labor and about to give birth to their baby. Can you imagine that? And then there's a person who left their company and went to Google for only 13 weeks before getting laid off. And I guess what really bothers me is there's no accountability for how this disrupts people's lives. This person could have been employed had they not been recruited away to join Google. And honestly, probably the recruiters who hired this person or recruited this person are now also laid off as well. But the whole thing is just a mess, and now they've disrupted and essentially derailed this person's life. So one can't help but look at this as extremely poor behavior by these companies, and it's no wonder that people are dissatisfied with their work, dissatisfied with how they're treated, because people have been getting jerked around. And in the one moment they've had in the spotlight with this great buyer's market, yeah, get the money that you can. Some people said, oh, I don't feel bad for the people at Google and Facebook and Amazon who got laid off. And I sit there and I scratch my head and say, why wouldn't you feel bad for them? They're in the same boat as you potentially. And you had every opportunity to go get a job there and earn the most that you can, because If you took a job making less doing the same type of work for a company that isn't going to pay what Google or Amazon does, at least they have a bigger paycheck, or hopefully they have a bigger nest egg that they've saved up because they did put themselves into position to earn that amount of money. And I would never feel bad for somebody earning the most that they can in their given profession if it means going to the biggest alpha company. But there's a price to be paid. Of course, when you look at the market and you see these companies throwing crazy amounts of money at people, you got to think in the back of your mind, this is not going to end well. There's going to be a brick wall that's going to hit. And sure enough, as it's hitting, it is pretty ugly. But it doesn't excuse these companies from hiring recklessly. To a senior leader, it may just look like a number. You may just be a line on a spreadsheet. But there are people who have lives, they have families, they have mortgages, they have car payments, and they have hopes and dreams. And they took these jobs thinking that it would help them further their career to get to their end goal. And that's all been wiped away. And some of the stories that I read on LinkedIn it's pretty sad. You know, when you really look at people trying to be positive in a very negative situation. And I think we should be holding companies accountable. And how you can lend your voice to this is by choosing which companies you want to accept offers for. If a company's not behaved properly and you know that they have not behaved properly, why would you ever go and give them your service? It's essentially like casting a vote. And if I'm interviewing for a company, you can certainly bet that I'm going to be assessing how they behaved in 2020 and how they're behaving right now. And I've seen companies do this. In fact, I think it was Zillow who laid off a bunch of their recruiting staff in the fourth quarter of 2022. And this is like a month ago as I record this video. And they're already posting the same jobs that they just laid off. You can't go back to the previous person who was sitting in that role. If you're claiming that they didn't get laid off for performance, why aren't you going back to the same person that you just laid off and recalling them and trying to give them back their employment? Or why did you not forecast the need for that work appropriately? Where's the accountability there where you can destroy somebody's life and then post the job and say, whoops, sorry, we didn't mean it. And fortunately, there were a bunch of people who were calling out this hiring manager who posted this job. And it was good to see because, again, we have to be holding these companies accountable for this poor behavior. So all this boils down to acting like a free agent. And for me, acting like a free agent is always looking out for your best interest first. And that's what being selfish is all about. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with being selfish in your career, because nobody else is going to look out for you. And let's face it, corporate loyalty is dead, and it died with the baby boomer generation. Gone are the days where you can work for 20, 30, 40 years at the same company, collect a nice pension, and ride off into the sunset. Those days just simply don't exist. It is very unlikely that you'll be a lifer at a company anymore. And I have a whole philosophy on why even that's potentially bad. You can check out, there's another video that I made about why a steady job is bad for your career. But nonetheless, people used to be able to work at a company and feel relatively stable, but nowadays it's just the what have you done for me lately? It's a flavor of the minute. It's like an instant gratification. The minute things look like they're getting tough, layoffs happen, and then they hire everybody back in a rush. People jump from job to job. They leave potentially stable opportunities and then lay off again. And that seems to be the new repeating cadence in the workforce. So as you're acting like a free agent, you always have to make the best decision for yourself. And I'll give you one more anecdotal story here. I know somebody who is probably watching this video right now who got laid off, I think the beginning part of November, right before the holiday season started. And it was very unexpected. They did not see it coming. And we promptly updated their resume. We got that LinkedIn profile all cleaned up. We taught them how to approach networking in the most effective way to bypass the recruiter. And basically what that resulted in is multiple job offers. And this person landed I don't think it was like a $50,000 raise from their previous employment by the second or third week of December. So they were only unemployed for about, I don't know, 5 weeks or so before they had a great offer. They actually had another offer at the same time that they had to choose between, and they were about the same. And so those two offers, as this person accepted the first offer and started their job in the beginning of January, they happened to be finishing up the last rounds of interviews. And they actually asked me, should I finish these rounds of interviews even though I already accepted this job and I have a confirmed start date? And I said, heck yes, absolutely. Treat yourself like a free agent and finish those interviews. And so they finished the interview over the Christmas break. Come January, they start the new job. Not 3 or 4 days into it, this final employer actually comes with an even stronger offer than the first two, and it's even $30,000 or $40,000 better than the offer that they accepted, which is now nearly $100,000 more than the original job that laid them off. So they asked me, would it be a bad move, a bad look, if I were to back out of this employer that I've only been at for, at this time, probably 2 weeks, and take this other job? And again, the first thing I said is, are you kidding me? This is even a question. Act like a free agent and take the better opportunity, whatever you think is the best opportunity for you given your career goals. Now, I don't know what the status is on that particular decision, but the moral of the story is we have to be acting like free agents, because if you start a new job, you could be the person that only worked 13 weeks and get laid off. You have to always be thinking for yourself. You have to be selfish. You don't owe your employer anything other than an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. Because at the end of the day, companies look at employees as human resources. And I know that we all hate that term, and it's honestly a disgusting term. But the fact of the matter is that you're looked at as a human resource. You're a number on a spreadsheet. And as long as you're useful in that regard, then you have a job. And the minute that you're not useful anymore, they will eliminate your position without even thinking about it. So that's basically it in a nutshell. And I'm going to probably have a video in the near future about what acting like a free agent actually looks like in real context. So I've got plans to make that video shortly here. So if you're interested, again, hit that subscribe button. If you're somebody that is struggling with your job search and you're just not getting any traction and you're really frustrated, and let's face it, it's a very competitive market, especially in the tech world, but it is starting to spill over into other industries. It's a very competitive market. So if you're trying to get a leg up on the competition, there are things that you can do to give yourself the best chance of landing an interview and then getting your way through the interviewing process to ultimately be the one that's selected for that offer. Of course, you should be asking all those right questions to ensure that the company has behaved properly and that you're aligning yourself with the right kind of organization, with the right core values for you. In order to get those recruiters to start contacting you, that's actually something that I specialize in. And you're going to need a great resume in order to do that. And I actually teach you how to write a resume in my course, Resume Rocketfuel. And it's designed to give you the best chance, given your circumstances, for the recruiter to notice you in order to pick up a phone for that first round interview. Then once you land the first round interview, it's up to you to sell yourself throughout the rest of the interviewing process. And I teach you how to do that through my course called The Ultimate Job Seeker Bootcamp. And it's essentially interview training, and it takes you all the way from cradle to grave through a major corporation's hiring processes. But if you want to have the best way of getting hired, it's actually to have the recruiter come and find you so that you don't compete with hundreds of people who are applying for these jobs. And I created a course called Unlocking LinkedIn, which will set you up to be the most discoverable that you can be on that platform. And that's where recruiters are recruiting. So you want to be on LinkedIn if you're not on there already. You want to be discoverable. You want to have your profile set up the right way. And there's also the chance for you to build really powerful networks and be able to skip the recruiting process altogether, jump right to the front of the line. And again, my course Unlocking LinkedIn teaches you how to do that. So if you're struggling, you don't really know how to use LinkedIn, you're not getting recruiters to contact you, check out that course, and that should help you set up your profiles the correct way. So hopefully you haven't gotten caught up in these layoffs. And I know that this was a little bit of a rant, but I appreciate you following along. And I've got lots of other content planned. And as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.